And now to Tehran. In Iran, protests sparked by the death of Mahsa Amini are still ongoing, and this is despite an ultimatum issued by Iran's Revolutionary Guard. In our next report, we tell you what's been happening recently in Iran. Let's take a look.
The protests in Iran against the death of Mahsa Amini continue. It's been about 50 days since they began. They have turned from anti-hijab to anti-regime protests. The defiance has taken Iranian authorities aback. They have tried different tactics to end the protests. Iran has blamed the US and Israel for inciting the protests.
Do not think that Biden must call you and tell you to take to the streets, or Dempsey, or McKinsey, or Benny Gantz, or Naftali Bennett, or Lapid for that matter, or Bin Salman, who diced up the corpse of that journalist and dissolved it in acid. These people will not call you directly. They will use their media to force you to stand against your people and society and fighters. Mr. Biden, we forced you out of Iran and the region. We will bury your dreams in this nation.
They have said the protesters are collaborating with enemy states, but that hasn't stopped the people. Iran has attacked its minorities. Mahsa Amini was Kurdish. Iran's Kurdistan region has been facing brutal repression. The 40th day after Amini's death, a vast crowd gathered at the cemetery where she was buried. Almost 10,000 people were present. But police clashed with mourners at the cemetery. Witnesses say they opened fire at mourners in Amini's hometown of Saqqez. And Kurdish people outside Iran have been targeted too. Iran has attacked the Kurdistan region in Iraq, but this has not deterred the protesters either. The regime then tried to bring the nation together. On the same day, the crowds gathered at Amini's grave. An attack took place in the southern town of Shira. A gunman killed 15 people at a shrine in the city. ISIS took responsibility for the attack. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, called for unity. He said the perpetrators would be punished. Despite his calls, Iran's protesters did not get behind the regime. Then came the ultimatum. The leader of Iran's Revolutionary Guard said enough was enough.
Put aside the wickedness. Today is the last day of the riots. Do not come to the streets anymore. What more do you want from the lives of these people?
But the people defied his demand for the protests to end. The day after the ultimatum, university students continued to burn their hijabs. They continued their chants against Khamenei. In Tehran, university students clashed against pro-regime groups. Then there's the cruelty. The UN reports that Iran is not returning the bodies of dead protesters to their families.
We've seen a lot of ill treatment, continued ill treatment of protesters, but also harassment of the families of protesters. Colleagues have flagged the following. I'll read it out to you. Of particular concern is information that authorities have been moving injured protesters from hospitals to detention facilities, refused to release the bodies of those killed to their families, and delivered the deceased on the condition that their families do not hold a funeral or that their families do not speak to the media.
The entire law enforcement machinery is against the protesters. Iran is to hold public trials for over 1,000 protesters. This is after 315 have already been charged in Tehran. Reports say the judiciary is bound to side with the regime. All the protesters are expected to face imprisonment. But despite the crackdown, people are still gathering. Reports say Iran's youth is rebelling against the all-powerful clergy. Videos where protesters knock off clerics' turbans have gone viral. The protests began because of Iran's morality police trying to enforce the hijab. Now they have escalated to a fight against the clergy's hold on power. Iran continues to do everything it can to crush the demonstrations. However, despite its best efforts, the regime has not succeeded yet.